Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of the VGN Online Podcast. I'm Andrew Stevenson, member of the VGN, and here today joined by Sarah Pearce, fellow Brightonian and VGNer.
Hello everyone, it's Sarah.
Hey Sarah, really glad to have you on the show today. Got some really important news today regarding VGN's online presence. The VGN website, vgnonline.co.uk, is finally available to members of the public. On the VGN website we have the VGN feed, which has all the latest VGN posts from content contributors such as myself. We've got writer Broadbent Smith covering different articles about the gaming industry. He's reporting from up in Edinburgh. Hopefully we'll have Sarah contribute some content to the VGN website over the next coming weeks, and if not, we'll have her join us on some more podcasts as well. If you want to follow VGN, you can do in loads of different ways now. We've got our Twitter handle, VGN_UK. We've got the Facebook page, facebook.com/videogamenerdsonline. We've also got SoundCloud, where you can subscribe to our podcast and any other audio tidbits that we have for you here at VGN. That's soundcloud.com/VGN-online. You can also search for VGN Online on YouTube for any of our for all of our video content as well. But all of the content that VGN produces can also be found at vgnonline.co.uk. Please don't hesitate to visit the site. We've got some content up there from some of our content contributors. You can subscribe to this podcast now through iTunes, which you can find links on our site, or you can just search for VGN Online on iTunes as well. And don't hesitate to email us at vgamenerds, that's vgamenerds@gmail.com. With the site launch, we are going to be having a new website, a new email address for you to contact us on, and we will let you guys know that during the next podcast. And that's not all. To celebrate the launch of vgnonline.co.uk, we are giving away some amazing prizes. We've got all sorts coming up for you in our social media giveaway, so follow us on Twitter at VGN_UK if you want a chance to win some of these exclusive prizes. So, we're joined today in the VGN studio with Sarah Pearce. Sarah, why don't you introduce yourself to the guys at home and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm here today as part of VGN, which is really fun and exciting. About myself, I've always lived in Brighton. I'm 22, I've always loved games. I've always been a massive gaming fan ever since I can remember, and that's probably why I'm part of this now.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your gaming history? What was your very first console?
My very first console, as far as I can remember, was a PS1, followed by an N64 as well.
Good starting point.
Yes, good starting points.
Nice entry points into the gaming.
I have no idea how old I was. All I know is that I was quite young. But I remember playing games like Croc, Spyro, things like that. I remember playing on my N64 things like Pokemon Arena. I just remembered the other day a game called Rampage. Did you ever play Rampage?
Oh yeah, that was the game where you were like, you would be like big monsters from different mythologies. So you could be like King Kong or like Godzilla in like wreck towns and things like that.
I remember playing that for hours with my friends, and you used to climb to the top of buildings and things. Yeah.
Oh nice.
Yeah, I remember that. That was great. Obviously Zelda, things like that. Lara Croft. One of my biggest memories, I believe, is me playing at my dad's really old PC, and we used to play Half-Life together all the way through. This is when we were on a holiday in France. It was the best holiday because I was like, wow, this is the best game ever. And then my dad introduced me to things like Counter-Strike, and I was playing Counter-Strike for hours. I was about 12.
Nice.
And I just played Counter-Strike, and then when people found out I was a girl on there, they'd be like, oh my god. It'd be really awkward. It was definitely really fun. Then I got into things like Halo, got more into the Xbox originally, all into the Halo games, but now I'm more of a PS3, PS4 type of girl. But yeah, all the games for as long as I can remember.
What sort of games have you been playing recently? Any memorable games recently that you've been playing?
Recently I've been playing Shadow of Mordor completely all the time, every day.
It's a good game. I don't blame you.
It's a very good game. It took me some time to get into, but then once I was into it, I was completely obsessed and I can't stop playing. Absolutely obsessed. Just before that, I was playing Far Cry 4, got obsessed with that as well. I like Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4. The other Far Cry's not so into, but those two I've been obsessed with. I've completed all of them 100%, I loved it. Other than that, I really enjoyed, I was talking about this today actually, the new Tomb Raider.
Oh, the new Tomb Raider.
I was surprised to enjoy it, but I did enjoy it a lot.
You see, now I wasn't a massive fan of the new Tomb Raider. However, I played it on the Xbox 360 a while ago, maybe a year or so ago, and I wasn't overly enamoured by it. I thought the story was okay.
Yeah, the story wasn't the best.
And I don't know, I just kind of felt like I was being led from encounter to encounter. I didn't really get the big open world vibe. I didn't feel it.
No, they could have done better with that. I found for me it was just I found it quite addicting. I couldn't stop playing it and I had to get it 100% again, which is always an issue of mine. Once I play the story and then I go back and then I can't stop playing it until I've got it completely there. So I think I was playing it for like 2 months.
Are you that kind of gamer? Is that what you would say? Like you like to 100% everything. You like to make sure you've got everything.
I never used to until recent years, where if I start a game, I have to finish it for a start, even if I'm not enjoying it. I really give it a good shot and I play it to the end. And then on the games that I'm really enjoying, I really like to go back and get 100%. Like Far Cry 4, it's taken me, I still haven't done it. It's taken me ages to even get to like 75%, but really enjoy doing it. It's like a really big accomplishment.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're enjoying Far Cry 4. I don't know if you heard the podcast the other week. Well, our pilot podcast with Charlie. I wasn't speaking very favourably of Ubisoft.
No, I know.
And but it's nice to hear that there is somebody, you know, who does enjoy the games, and you know, despite my naysaying, you know, it is nice to hear the other side of the coin.
I would not say I was the biggest fan of Ubisoft. However, I've not been discouraged with Far Cry. For me, Far Cry is the one game I will definitely play, even though that definitely has its glitches. Definitely has its glitches, and for ages it just didn't really work. But I stuck by, I waited, and I enjoyed it when it was fine.
That's the thing they do, and you know, these big developers, you know, people like Ubisoft, they do deliver nice, polished experiences in the end. You know,
it just takes them a while to get there.
You know, and I appreciate they are large projects. Speaking of large projects, I went to a talk last week held at Brighton University by Dion Lay and Will Porter, two writers for the Alien Isolation game that recently came out. And they were talking about the challenges of adapting a large franchise such as the Alien franchise, and you know, the big Hollywood blockbuster movie, and adapting that to a video game format. And it was really cool. The game was created by Creative Assembly, who are based in Horsham, just down the road in Brighton. They've been responsible for things like the Total War series and other big titles. They've been big players for quite a while. And it was just really interesting to hear about some of the challenges that writers face in the industry, and the challenges that there are sort of getting into the industry. I mean, I know, Sarah, you studied at university to work in the video game industry, or you had aspirations to work in the video game industry at one point, didn't you?
I definitely did, yeah. I did a university course here in Brighton, which I originally would like to go into concept art and stuff like that. That would be more my sort of area. I've always been into illustrating and coming up with amazing ideas ever since I played games from when I was very young, like Final Fantasy, and the beautiful art in that. It was always an absolute obsession. I loved it. So that would be where I'd like to go, and eventually, maybe one day, it would be great, like the architecture and the design of the games. But yeah, it's finding the right company to go into, I guess. Yeah.
Did you find that it's a competitive industry to get into? Did you ever try for placements or anything like that?
Didn't try for placements because I already had a job at the time, and I just thought I'd play that out a bit more first. However, there were definitely opportunities that came up whilst I was at uni with certain people that we worked with on the course. It's definitely a very competitive industry. It's where everyone sort of wants to go. I know a couple of my friends who went to do a really great course up, I believe it was Aberdeen. They went and did an incredible game design course, and even they're finding it really hard to find jobs in the game industry at the moment because it's a very popular way to go at the moment. So hopefully one day, but it's definitely difficult to get into.
I suppose as the popularity of the medium grows, you know, you're going to find that, you know, there's going to be a lot more people who are attracted to it as a career prospect, I guess.
Yeah, one of the companies I would love to work with would have been Square Enix. I love them, absolutely love them. As well as back in the day when I was absolutely obsessed with Halo, I would love to work with Bungie, but then of course 343 came in.
They did.
So, not too sure now.
Yeah, I mean Destiny was a bit of a letdown in my eyes as well.
I was very excited for Destiny, just because of my absolute fangirlism for Halo. And it had aspects of it which I really enjoyed, like the artwork and the concept of it all. But then when it actually came down to playing it, I think me and you included, we played it for about a week, going like, oh my god, it's the best game.
Yeah.
And then after about a week, we both never really put it back into our console again.
Yeah, definitely. It was just like, I played it, we did the grind, we did all there was to do, and that was it.
There's only so many patrols you can go on before you get a bit bored.
Yeah, exactly. And the Crucible is you know, it's the Crucible. It's like every other
just
Bungie
like Halo matchmaking, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. There was nothing really that new to it.
Which was my favourite part of the old Halo games, the matchmaking.
Totally.
Like Halo 3, the best online.
Oh, totally. I played so much Halo 3 online.
So did I. The badges.
Far too much.
All
the badges. Oh, that's one thing that I really missed out of Destiny, actually, was like badges for matchmaking. Like
things.
Yeah, they never did all the badges, because there were some really, really creative ones as well.
They did lose that though after Halo 3. They did scrap the badge system. As far as I'm aware, I may be incorrect, but I believe when it got to like Halo Reach and then Halo 4,
it was a lot less focused on that sort of thing. Yeah, there wasn't
my favourite part.
It was really cool, because you were like, oh, what did I get? What did you get? Oh, I got this many more than you. Oh, you got that many. Like, yeah, there was always
I got
that
an added star to my badge.
Yeah, it was really, really cool.
That was so much fun. I remember that.
But I was talking about, I went to see Dion Lay and Will Porter at Brighton University. They were talking about writing for a AAA game, and one of the things that they were talking about was making sure that gameplay was of paramount importance when you're creating a game, and one of the points that they addressed was that, you know, you should be prepared to make compromises when you're working on a game such as Alien Isolation, which I understand to a point, but it must be pretty devastating, you know, as an artist, be it a writer or a concept artist, having to make compromises in telling their story or having anybody see their true vision. And you know, it's something that, you know, indie developers are more blessed with. You know, they can tell a story however they want. Jonathan Blow was creating an indie game about a first-person storytelling experience in the vein of Myst, who the creator of, what did he do? Braid.
Yeah.
He did Braid. Jonathan Blow, creator of Braid, did a first-person storytelling experience, puzzle game. That was supposed to be an Xbox One exclusive.
I heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, that was, I'm sure he didn't make any compromises telling his story, because he was the only person who, one of the only people who worked on it. He
exactly.
was,
Story's got to come as a top priority, really. I've noticed a lot of games, for example Destiny, story just gets lost over the content of the graphics and the, I do feel like it's getting a bit lost.
Well, that's one of the things Dion and Will were talking about. One of the stories that they had to tell was that as part of the level design, Dion and Will had written all these levels out and what was going to happen where, and there would be level designers who would come up to them one day and say, oh hey, so we're going to have to cut this entire part of the level out because it breaks up some of the action, or sometimes they would go, well, we've got memory issues with the amount of space that we can generate, so we're going to have to cut this part out. And then Dion and Will would be like, okay, cool, so there was a big plot point that happened there.
Yeah, what are we going to do now?
Yeah, we're going to have to stitch this in somewhere else, and they would have to almost like rewrite it on the fly. And I get that may be a necessity, and it's a testament to their skills as writers, as being able to weave this story when these sorts of roadblocks are thrown up against them. And I was at this talk, and I was quite reverent of being in the same room as people like this. It was really, really cool. One of the things I did talk to Dion and Will about, I had a chance to ask them questions. There was a Q&A at the end, and I went and asked them about DLC. Now, I know a lot of people who have listened to the show before and who know me will think I'm like a dog with a bone with DLC, but you know, I'm from a generation of gamers who, you know, didn't grow up with DLC. You paid your price, you got your game, and that was awesome, and that was the game. You know, you on day one when you bought the game, you weren't told to buy other things. It's a hard concept to get used to. You know, I am growing towards it. I see that there are advances in technology that you know, that enable DLC and allow games to evolve at a much faster rate and things like that. I get it. But anyway, I was asking Dion and Will about DLC, and you know, working for a AAA company, I was just saying to them, you know, what they thought of being writers for large parts of a game that won't be played by anybody because they're price walled behind DLC. You know, it's a larger part of this narrative that they're trying to tell, that not a lot of people are going to see. I think they were trying to be diplomatic, being part, you know, of a large developer, and they were saying that, you know, there are ways to track achievements through games, and you know how you get achievements for completing a game. There are large portions of people who don't even complete the core game in the first instance, and you know, they were saying, you know, that like that's a thing in the gaming industry. That isn't that like punishing those who are really into a gaming series by potentially withholding stuff or price walling extra content?
Yeah, I agree.
Especially at day one.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never really been a massive fan of DLCs. I'd rather just play the game for what it is and then play a different game after that. I don't need the add-ons. It's like in-app purchases. That's what it feels like to me. It's like, oh yeah, you can play the game, but you won't get the full great experience of the game unless you buy this extra thing after a week of playing it. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, and that's, you know, Dion and Will were just saying that their DLC, they're happy to expand the story as much as they can, and despite the fact that people might not see it through to the full game, you know, or even in the DLC, you know, at least it's something that they've created and constructed, you know, and it has been, you know, and there are challenges within that sort of scenario to do it. It's, you know, massive teams, loads of different departments. You're working with actors, you're working with sound engineers, you're working with graphic artists, you're working with coders, you're working with massive teams, producers from the shows. They were talking about all the legal problems that they had using. They had to create fake brands for foods and soft drinks. So they had to submit these fake brands to a legal team.
Oh wow!
To make sure that they're not actually real brands that are used elsewhere.
To avoid,
so loads of challenges working with working on that. Really inspiring talk from the guys at Creative Assembly, Dion Lay and Will Porter. Really nice guys. I had a great time. I think it was really enlightening for the students. And it's nice to see that there's a local game dev, you know, giving back to the community, you know, coming into universities and talking to students and giving them advice and giving them insight and just letting them know that, you know, it's something that they can do. It's good. I like it.
I like it too. I'd love to have gone to one of those at uni. If I had someone come in and talk to me from a big games development company, I'd find it amazing.
So yeah, that's what I got up to last week. Coming up next, we've got VGN Online's gaming news.
Well, I'll probably start with the whole Nintendo on mobile platforms, I think. I found that really interesting.
I myself am genuinely quite surprised that Nintendo have moved into the mobile gaming platform space. Being a handheld console developer, providing handheld consoles and taking up that segment of the mobile gaming market for such a long time, to then take software and put it onto other platforms and allowing gamers to leave the Nintendo ecosystem. I think it's a bold move.
It's bold.
An unexpected move in my mind from Nintendo on this one. One thing I'm worried about is that this is just going to mean there's going to be a whole load of Candy Crush-esque mimics.
Exactly my thoughts, yes.
One of the things I'm worried about is seeing a Match 3 Yoshi's Egg color game or similar ruining the Nintendo franchise for me. That's one of the things I'm worried about.
I agree. I think for me it's quite bold because, I mean, handheld systems are a dying breed anyway, really, because of things like tablets and phones. You can play so many games on there now, and it's where people normally go for their games. if they want handheld games. But if they're going to start putting things in the App Store, it's not going to be things like Mario Kart Racing, or I don't think they're going to branch out to that level of things, because otherwise they sort of shoot themselves in the foot, I feel.
I would reckon so. I would reckon they would save those core Nintendo experiences, like your Mario Kart games, like your Super Mario platforming games.
Yeah.
Save that for the bespoke hardware. Give it that real Nintendo vibe. More recently, Nintendo did actually license out Mario for a Puzzles and Dragons game. So they reskinned a Puzzles and Dragons game with Super Mario. So yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean that happened fairly recently. It was, people thought it was going to be a one-off instance, an isolated instance, but now we've got large partnerships with Nintendo and DNA. Caused the stock price of Nintendo to jump massively on the announcement. Investors are thinking they're going to see big things from this partnership. I mean, it's an interesting time. Even more interestingly, during the announcement, Nintendo, they're going to be showing off a new hardware concept next year. They're going to be showing that off in 2016. Codenamed NX. All that we're told is that it's a new hardware concept. One can only speculate that with a lot of VR headsets coming about, and VR being the new buzzword in the gaming industry, Nintendo could be working towards that perhaps, and I think that would be a very, very interesting.
That would be awesome if they did that. Yes, a lot about the VR world at the moment as well, isn't there? Yeah, I think that would be an awesome step for them, be a part of everything else that's going on at the moment, and the sort of games they make. It would be awesome to have a virtual reality side of it as well. I think that'd be cool.
Alternatively, they aren't necessarily one to follow the pack as well, so we could be getting a completely different type of concept hardware from Nintendo. I mean, this is a company that started off making playing cards, and now they're making 3D hardware on consoles. So these guys have had some left field ideas in the past, and I dare say they'll have some more left field ideas in their future. What else have we got in the news? What was the other one?
The new Final Fantasy game that came out today.
Oh yeah, totally.
Zero HD.
The new Final Fantasy game, Type 0 HD, came out today. That arrived at the VGN studio today. It's very, very true to the Final Fantasy universe. There's a lot of different references in there, just in the first couple of hours, just in the first hour or so even. There's references to the Magitech armor from the Final Fantasy 5 or 6 games. You've got chocobos that are in there. There's an epic scene with a chocobo mount.
I need to give it a good try, I reckon. I will say it completely caught me off guard, this game. I don't know why. I must have been under a rock or something. I had no idea it was coming. But for me personally, Final Fantasy's been such an iconic series in my life. It sounds so ridiculous, I know, but it's been sort of like a series that I've always constantly loved. Such an inspiring game. So, like I mentioned earlier with the whole concept art, I've loved it. However, for me, the interest sort of ended at 10-2 for me. All the way up to that, I was keen. After that, not so excited anymore. But this, to me, sounds like a whole new version. You said it's sort of less turn-taking.
Yeah, so they've done away with turn-based combat, and I think this isn't to the game's detriment at all. The AI is good. It's more real. It's more about dodging and ducking and weaving and finding opportunities to attack, as opposed to queuing up actions and seeing everything play out turn by turn, which is the way that the next Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy 15, is going to be going. I think that's a good idea for Square Enix to bring Final Fantasy Type 0 to a Western audience, because this is a remake of a game that was for the PSP originally.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so they've done like an HD remake of that for consoles for PS4. And yeah, by bringing that to Western audiences, getting us familiar with that type of Final Fantasy game is going to really pave the way for Final Fantasy 15. Because the VGN got the Type 0 HD on day one, we've also got access to the Final Fantasy 15 demo, which we're going to be posting gameplay footage of through the VGN channels. Also in gaming news, I mean, it's not about video games per se, but we've got a new video game related movie coming out starring Adam Sandler called Pixels. Have you heard about this? Have you seen this?
Yeah, I saw the trailer. It looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, the trailer looks weird. From what I can gather from the trailer, a message is sent off into space to try and make contact with aliens. Earth sends, you know, all sorts of different types of
historic
things. One of the things they do send is footage of video games. This message appears to be picked up by an alien race who interpret it as a threatening message, a declaration of war, and they fight us with they send beings to fight us with with the same visage as the video games. So you've got Pac-Man eating up the streets. You've got Space Invaders shooting down. You've got Donkey Kong throwing barrels at people. And Adam Sandler gets caught up in it all. He's co-starring Kevin James, a popular comedic actor, star of the King of Queens sitcom. Quite a good TV show. I was quite a fan of that. But yeah, Pixels looks fun.
Not sure how much of a serious film it is, more so than just like a fun thing to watch for game fans, you know.
Yeah,
I'll enjoy it regardless, I'm sure.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be enough gaming references in there from what I've seen to keep me placated, you know. I mean, Wreck-It Ralph was a really good animation. Had good gaming references in that.
As soon as I saw the trailer for Pixels, I immediately thought of Wreck-It Ralph. Just like the crossover between different game worlds, to me, it reminded me of it. But the trailer itself looks pretty. I think it's definitely looking to be more funny and ironic, more than like an actual full-on serious film. But I'm excited for it.
Oh yeah, I'm not expecting it to be too thought-provoking. A bit of popcorn fodder with some video game references. I'm totally down to watch it. Yeah, I'm not expecting great things from it, but I'll definitely be going to see it.
On what kind of reviews we'll get.
Yeah, well, you can check out the review at VGN Online. I'm sure we'll be talking about it after we've seen it. One last piece of gaming news: upcoming releases. We've got Bloodborne coming out at the end of this month. There was a promotion in Denmark whereby if you donated blood, you got a copy of the game.
Oh, that's a good way. That's impressive.
Really fun. Bloodborne comes out in about a week's time now. PlayStation 4 exclusive. Spiritual successor to the Dark Souls series, brought to you by From Software. I know I'm really looking forward to this game. I'm pretty excited. How about you, Sarah?
Well, a surprising fact for me, I didn't play Dark Souls.
Oh, did you not?
I totally missed that boat.
Oh, well, I implore you. You need to go play it now.
It's like one of the most difficult games, right? It's like really challenging.
Insanely challenging.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you don't play it to the end, you know, you don't have to. I would recommend you play it at some point just to experience it. It is a very challenging game. You know,
I saw a few playthroughs and it looked really fun to play. And but one of those like constantly the same level again and again and again until you get it. But I like games like that, so I would definitely be playing. I don't know, but I never got around to it.
It's quite an undertaking. I got it on release day, but I've had a friend who put it off, and now it's his favourite game of all time. So you may be a convert. You never know.
I'm sure I will be. Nothing against it. I definitely want to play it. Just finding the time.
Great, so that's the gaming news roundup here at VGN. You can now bookmark us at the new VGN website, vgnonline.co.uk. We've got content being thrown up there from Ryder Broadbent Smith, myself, Andrew Stevenson, hopefully Sarah Pierce at some point in the future. You can email us at vgamenerds@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with us, ask us any questions, any points of discussion you want brought up during podcasts. Twitter handle is VGN_UK. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/videogamenerdsonline. You can subscribe to us on SoundCloud, that's soundcloud.com/VGN-online. You can now subscribe to the podcasts in iTunes as well now. We've got direct feed through iTunes. Search for VGN Online on YouTube as well to stay up to date with all of our video related content. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Next week on the VGN podcast, we're going to have Lucy Nelson, PhD candidate, coming in to talk about video games and the effect on the brain.
Sounds really good.
We're going to hopefully dispel some myths, learn a few things about the effect gaming has on the brain. I myself am personally quite excited. Moving VGN Online to a more highbrow space.
Yes.
It's going to be really cool. I would just like to thank you, Sarah, for coming on to VGN Online's podcast today.
Well, thanks for having me.
No, it's been great. Have you had a good time?
I have. No, I love it. It's great.
Smashing. This is us at VGN Online signing off. Have a great time and safe gaming, everybody. Safe gaming.